All right, hello everybody. It's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. Very excited today. Doing something a little bit different. Of course, I usually am talking to musicians, metalheads. Today, I'm talking to somebody who, a friend of mine, for one, and also an inspiration in terms of blog writing. My good friend Mikey Riedel from the Utah Beer Blog. Thank you so much for joining me. Really excited to have you on, and I'm really excited also. And one of the reasons I wanted you on the show was it's the 10-year anniversary of Brews and Tunes. And I know you just celebrated, you're almost at 17 years, right? With your blog, I believe.
16 years, and congratulations on 10.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it seems kind of surreal and weird that people.
Is that so?
Yeah. Like, you're still reading this after 10 years? I'm still writing this after 10 years? What the hell is wrong with me?
I know, it's like I have no life.
Yeah. But it works. It's something to do, and it's kind of. Somebody jokingly told me, and I didn't argue against this. They said, I think the blog is just an excuse for you to be a lush, but it looks intellectual. Yeah, you may be right. You may be right. Yeah, because I'm writing about beer as I get intoxicated. So
people have said worse to me.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it.
Oh, nice. And before we get going here, what are you drinking today? What do you got?
I got a care package from Ohio, and I've got Magical Mystery, which is I think they're describing it as a tropical dark lager. So,
Cool.
We'll get into that, I guess.
Tropical dark lager. Interesting.
I probably should have grabbed something local since I'm the local beer guy.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, I'm starting with a Utah Mandarina Kolsch for now. Something a little light to start with.
Tasty.
Yeah.
Tasty.
Yeah, definitely some good stuff there. So, let's talk about the Utah Beer Blog. And as you mentioned, 16 years you've been around writing the blog. And I remember, I think I first came across your blog. I mean, it was shortly after you had started. It was in the early days of the blog, and if I'm not mistaken, and I probably am because I have no memory anymore, I believe it was a mutual friend of ours, Chad, my brother-in-law, who told me about your blog. And from day one, I was enamored. I loved it. It was especially being in Utah, and there really was nothing out there like that at the time. So kind of what was the catalyst? What got you? How did that start? What was the kind of the catalyst for you starting the blog in the first place?
Mostly therapy. It was a lot of people I'd meet, in traveling, and always hear, you'd go to a brewery or a beer pub, and they talk to you, and they're like, you're from Utah, and they just look at you like, oh, you poor thing.
Right.
It's like you come from this this beer wasteland, and I was like, actually make some pretty good beer, and our brewers getting national and international recognition, you should give it a try. And they'd be like, no thanks anyway. But it's like we've already got you guys figured out. And so I was, out of frustration and to help build a community of like-minded people who really liked the hometown suds, started the blog. I got the basic Google template and went forward and just tried to give a voice to our local brewers, because this is before social media, so nobody really had a platform. Breweries had their web pages, but nobody went to a web page.
Right.
Nobody typed in a URL and went to a beer page. So I kind of became kind of social media before it was all social media, and just I would do all the legwork, and I'd do all the research, what was going on, make phone calls, send emails, and they'd send me info back. I'd put it all on, and in the early days, I was throwing out content 3-4 times a week.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you were updating constantly, it seemed like.
And social media kind of killed that, and it took kind of what I was doing already, and it was able to give, put that all in one place, and that was very convenient for a lot of people. And try to catch up with that, because you just couldn't know what Facebook was going to be when it's first started rolling in, and try to stay relevant and still making friends while doing it.
Right. Nice. Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, your page was definitely an inspiration, probably the biggest inspiration in terms of, of my page. And just, like I said, I was really blown away when when I was first told about your page, first started reading it, and just, that voice, like you said, there's a voice for Utah breweries, and I felt the same way, that there were a lot of people just didn't get it, especially from out of state. Utah was kind of a joke, or considered a joke, but it's like, no, yeah, as you said, there's award-winning breweries here that are making, some really solid beers, and under, with constrained rules, they're able to make some really tasty beers when they have to play the DABC game all the time.
Yeah, I don't think people really understood how tough it was to make flavorful beer at 4%, or 3.2 if you're using alcohol by weight. But it was frustrating, but it was also you were also very proud of what the guys were putting up, because there was just like, I don't see why people are hating. I mean, I get it. I mean, a lot of people, when they want a beer, they want to feel good, and a lot of people want to feel good and have a very tasty beverage at the same time. And that's what we were doing in Utah for a long time.
Right. Yeah. Many years. Yeah.
So since the mid-late 80s.
Yeah. And it was interesting, looking at kind of the evolution of your blog, especially in recent years.
Sorry, I got this dog butt right here.
Your mascot.
This is very much my life. So.
Yeah, if I didn't have the door shut, I'd have a pug and a cat in here probably as well. Is a male or female, or?
This is Henry.
Henry. Oh, he's cute.
He's a cocker. Say hi, everybody. Henry.
Hey, Henry.
Look, Henry.
Hey, buddy.
Anyway, if I locked him up, he'd just be howling. So he's
all right.
We're gonna have to deal with this, I guess.
No, this works. This works.
He loves beer breath, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's probably digging on the beer breath. But yeah, one thing that I think is interesting with the evolution of your page, when you look at those early years, is there weren't a lot of breweries in Utah. So and you still do this a lot, which is always cool. You highlight what the new beers are of the week, which includes local beers, but also what's new in the liquor stores. And I remember in the old days, it'd be a lot of liquor store stuff, coming from out of state. Now, I mean, there's so many breweries in Utah. I would imagine it's sometimes overwhelming. I mean, I know I am. I can't keep up with the new releases. I'm so far behind at this point.
Yeah, we went from, just in a couple of years, from number of breweries being in the high 20s to the almost 40.
Yeah,
and just a couple of years. And when doing my franchise called New Beer Friday, which is kind of the only unique thing I can still do that Facebook isn't doing, is just going out there doing the research, hitting as many breweries, sampling as much as I can on Thursdays, because everything tends to drop on Friday or Saturday. That's when most of the beers, breweries, bars, everybody does their big push for the weekend. So it's been hard on me. Hard on my Uber account is very fat. It's a problem I'm glad to have.
Right.
When you see, it's just like, oh my God, I've got like 12 new beers this week from 7 breweries. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you can't get to all of them. I cover the entire state, and sadly, I've got, you got breweries in St. George, in Vernal, Ogden. It's, and more popping up in the most odd spaces you can imagine this year.
Yeah. Which is exciting. It's definitely very cool to, especially when you look back, having, both of us being here for a long time and dealing with, the DABC and kind of the crazy liquor laws that we have here in Utah, and those early days of, very, not a lot of beer, not a lot of options, great stuff, but not a lot of options. I mean, you had kind of the big, for a while it was kind of just the big four, I guess you could say, you went to Squatters, Wasatch, and Red Rock. And then, more recently now, we're seeing all these, some smaller, some bigger, lots of cool stuff coming out. And I love the competition of it. I think it's friendly competition, but I think a lot of these people are helping drive each other to try new things, do something different, which is very cool, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's that old adage, rising tide lifts all boats, and it's very much true. It keeps ideas fresh, gives the consumer a variety of things to look at, and they may find something out of state that they like much better, or they might find that something might be hype, and there might be something better, that's local, that is better tasting and hopefully cheaper.
Yeah. Are there, speaking of local beers, are there any, and I know this is probably a loaded question, but are there anything you're really digging right now? Any favorites that you've had recently? Anything new that's come out from some of the local breweries that you're really liking a lot?
I wouldn't say there's any specific beer. I'm happy that Old World lagers are making a comeback. Yeah. They were for a long time, at least in this market, they were always being made, but maybe not to the real Old World standards, where you were taking like 8 weeks to lager these things, and going with old school ingredients, and just taking time to make an actual flavorful Pilsner or lager that isn't necessarily just an American light lager that is pretty much just crisp and tastes really well, but doesn't have a lot of character. And I'm noticing that there's just so much of that being made by breweries, because you talk to the brewers and they're like, this is what I like to make. This is what I like to drink. And they like to make it because it's challenging to make those well. And, they benefit from it and we benefit from it. So I would say Old World lagers are my favorites. And when I see somebody making one, I chase them.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I'm really happy to see that too. And it's funny because my, as I mentioned, my brother-in-law, who's a brewer, Chad, that's kind of always been kind of his test for, especially not necessarily a new brewery, but a brewery that's new to him, especially if we're traveling out of state. The first thing he orders is usually a Pilsner, because he wants to see, like, his, he always tells me, he's like, oh yeah, you can hide flaws with hops and fruit flavors and things like that. But if you can make a really solid Pilsner, that I know you're a solid brewery. If you've got a flavorful, like, as you said, like an Old World lager, something that's fairly simple in terms of ingredients, but not easy to make, and not easy necessarily to make it well. I agree. It's a cool, it's nice. It's, and it seems like the beer industries, at least the craft beer industries, is somewhat cyclical, where it seems like, you have sometimes these silly fads, but then there's, oftentimes we kind of go back to these classic flavors, classic beers, which is what I like.
It's very much part of my life, and I almost call it like the cycle of life with beer. At least in my life, I came of age drinking beer in the late '80s, and as soon as I discovered craft beer, I was all over the ales, pale ales, golden ales, you name it, porters, stouts, and I would just go through all those. And throughout the years, you just experiment with all the sours and the barrel age and all the styles. And then all of a sudden you have the right Pilsner at the right time that is just so wonderful. And you're like right back to square one.
Yeah.
Like right where I began is where I'm back to. So it's been a fun trip, and it's fun to see what weird things brewers are coming up with. Peanut butter stouts and milkshake IPAs. It's like don't always want one of those, but they're really fun to have occasionally when you're looking for something challenging.
That's the crazy, and it just seems like we're seeing some crazier and crazier flavors out there, more experimental stuff. And sometimes, I'd like, I'm not sure if I really, but I'm always willing to try something. And I've been, happily surprised by some beers, sometimes not so much, but there's been a few where I'm like, wow, this is really tasty. I really like this. I wouldn't drink a lot of it, but
like this. This is basically like a Schwarzbier with tropical hops in it. It's very untraditional. It's it's weird. I'm getting to know it. Once it warms up, I'll know for sure if I really like it. But right now it's treating me really well, and I'm glad somebody had the foresight to try to do something like this, because I never thought of it.
When you told me it seems like a strange combination, but also interesting. Like, oh, okay, a Schwarzbier with tropical hops. Interesting. That could work.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Well, if it become available in the state, I'd write it up. But maybe you have to look for my review for it on Untapped, which you can follow me on Untapped as Utah Beer.
Oh yes, yeah. And I will. Speaking of which, I'll. Once this gets posted, everybody that's watching, if you look at the description below, there'll be a link to Mikey's page, Utah Beer Blog, as well as the Facebook page. So definitely check it out, because there's some great stuff in there. Seems like every time, every week when I read your page, I am always learning about, some beer I had no idea that was coming out. Especially now, there's so much coming out. It's mind blowing sometimes, especially with seems like several breweries, especially in Salt Lake, are doing lots of small batch, releases. They've been doing a lot of those, which is great and also frustrating, living in, 40 miles away, because they'll drive down there and it's all gone. Like, damn it.
Yeah. I don't know how things are in all markets, but in the Wasatch Front beer market and back, people are really into small batches. They're really, that was really great last week, but what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
They want every time every week when they come in, they want something new, and that means smaller brew systems, so they can, you can turn over more, people come in and drink. And I think that's really cool that some of the larger models, people are reassessing, doing huge production breweries, and if they are, making sure that they have enough smaller tanks where they can do, some weekly specials.
Right.
That's a lot of fun. Like you say, it's frustrating when you can't be, I'm trying to situate, I've got, breweries I want to take care of in Utah County. I've got breweries I want to take care of in Weber County. And you're just like, beer and cars don't know where it's always mix, and it's hard hard to do all that. And, do it all in a certain amount of days.
Yeah, that's the trick too. Yeah, there's just not enough time. It's, especially when I'll pop into one of my local breweries up here in Ogden, and come to find out they've released 3 new beers. I'm like, okay, well, I've got to sit down and have these 3 new beers, and then call my wife to come and pick me up.
Honey, I'm gonna be a little late.
Yeah, and I need a ride. It's like, oh god. But I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have. But it's great that it's amazing. I mean, it seems like it was a short window of time. I guess it really wasn't, but in some ways it feels that way. I guess because we had, I don't want to say the same old breweries. That sounds terrible, because they're all great breweries. But we had the same breweries for such a long period of time, and then kind of this explosion of new breweries in a very short window of time, or at least it felt like that. And it's great to, like I said before, I love having, all this competition. Because I've heard a few people complain like, it feels like it's oversaturated. I'm like, I don't think so at all. I think, especially when you go into, pre-pandemic, when you would go into some of these breweries especially on a Friday night, and there's nowhere to sit, it's packed, and then you go to the next one, it's packed. It's like, there's definitely there's plenty of room for more breweries in Utah.
Yeah, there's a nice phenomena happening. It's happening in Ogden. It's happening in Salt Lake, where you have a cluster of breweries opening up, and you think, why would you keep piling on into a very dense, industry that's, all the same? And everybody's not just going to one brewery, they're going to multiple breweries because the walking distance is so short. I mean, you can walk to another brewery in 5 or 10 minutes, and you can cover, if you're, on foot, on bike, on scooter, you can cover 5 breweries in an afternoon if you're feeling like doing a little brewery crawl, on your own or with your friends. And the brewers are starting to discover this, and it's like, we're all doing the same thing, and the beer nerds are into it. So I'll do my little tiny brewery tour, and I'll see some guys I saw across the street. I'm like, saw you at Fisher, saw you at Proper,
right.
So it's fun.
And it's nice too that one thing I've always liked is there seems to be a pretty, the brewery community in Utah, especially it's, in Salt Lake or some of these communities, Ogden, they seem to be tightly knit. There's a camaraderie there. I mean, they're in competition with one another. It's business, but also they're friends, especially the brewers themselves.
Mm-hmm.
These guys hang out with each other and share ideas and even share ingredients when somebody's low. I've heard stories of, I know it was probably, I can't remember, 5, 6, 7 years ago when there was there was like a Simcoe shortage of hops. And I remember hearing about a brewery basically trading hops because there was one brewery that was trying to brew a beer that had Simcoe in it that they had been doing forever, and they were out of Simcoe. And so another brewery said, hey, we'll trade you, we'll trade, some malt, you've got some malt that we want, we'll trade you for Simcoe hops. So that's really cool that there's that camaraderie, I think.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. Just like, I thought I didn't have enough yeast for this. And, somebody shows up and is like, here, just give me later. Just walks out with a gallon of yeast, and he's like, save my butt, man. Thanks. That's cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. It's very cool to see that. And it's also cool. I mean, you've been, not only do you write about the beer community, but you've been a part of the beer community in Utah for a long time. Like, these people really well. You judge beers. You're well known in Utah, and especially in the beer circles, which has got to be fun and exciting to be able to be part of that. Do you brew yourself? Have you done any brewing yourself?
I used to homebrew a lot, but over the years I've started accumulating beer at a rate where I can't drink what I've got, and making beer and just piling on top of what I've already got. I really slowed down in homebrewing, but I love doing it. It's very therapeutic, making beers and ciders and having a blast doing it, and and trying to be creative myself, and trying to at least match my palate, which has been the toughest part of homebrewing, is when you have I like what I like, and I would like my ability to be at the level that I like. Sometimes that doesn't always match. Right. So you're always just like, it's fine. It's not what I was hoping for, but okay. You're just like, that can, it's just like, if I just done this just a little, if I just been a little more attentive on my boil or something. It's just, but it's, that part's been fun. And, as far as, just knowing, getting to know all the people in industry, that just comes from years of being a pain in their ass, hitting them on the phone, hitting their emails, what do you got going on? What are you doing? They're like, well, come on by and see. And, getting to meet brewers and owners and the people in the bottle shops, getting to know them and their families, developed over many years. And I guess it doesn't help being a cheerleader.
Right.
It's helpful for them because, they see me coming. They're like, I'll make sure that, you get this out. And sometimes I've even had to say, like, kind of missed the mark on this one. So I think we're just, we're not going to talk shit about it. Just not going to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it's like, you're probably not happy with it either. And it's like, let's just get this one going, and we'll move on to the next one, because it was, just, what things that come with being friends is you tell friends the truth.
Yeah. Right. But it doesn't necessarily need to be in print.
Yeah. So, and that's not helpful. I mean, you don't want to be a complete cheerleader, but to shit on somebody's work is not helpful. I mean, you get critiques through my real job as a photojournalist, and I get critiques from my work, and obviously through the beer blog, and you take it. It hurts a little bit, but if it's constructive, you embrace it. If it's not, you're kind of you get a little butt hurt, but you're like, all right, move on.
Yeah. I know I can't remember which page. There's a beer group I'm on, a private beer group on Facebook, and and I'll share my Brews and Tunes posts on there. And this was a few months ago. I posted something, and some guy did not like the beer I had paired and thought basically my page was a joke. So he did a mock pairing, making fun of me and my page and the beer. And that was a little hard to take, but I guess and I didn't complain. I just ignored it. But I guess he had done some other stuff like that. And so some admin booted him off the page, because I think mine was kind of the last straw, but I think he had attacked some other people, because apparently he hates Pilsners, and it was a Pilsner I'd paired. So yeah, I don't know how you can hate Pilsners. Hate, I think is strong, because I remember he said that he hates Pilsners. Like, how can if you like beer, how can you hate Pilsners? Like, I can see it's like, oh, it's not my favorite style, but I don't hate any beer necessarily,
No, I'm the same way. There are beers I prefer not to drink.
Yeah.
But I would never, if somebody offered me that style I'm not particularly fond of, I would say, thank you very much.
Yeah. If somebody said, here's a Keystone Light, I would crack it open. I will drink that Keystone Light.
I've done many times. I mean, I will say I'm not a huge Belgian pale person.
Okay.
Not my favorite style. But like when I judge competitions, I get the opportunity, they send you out a form saying, what beers styles do you prefer not to judge? And never check a box, because you're there to do a thing, and whether I don't particularly like this style, I know what it should taste like, and I know what it shouldn't taste like, and whatever the style guideline says, suck it up and
right.
Hopefully maybe come up with wow, that was the best version of that beer I ever had. I'm gonna go chase that.
Yeah. I talked to somebody once who probably one of the same festivals that you've done some judging at. I talked to somebody who was doing judging, and they got stuck with malt liquor, and not
Me
something
too.
they wanted to drink, but
I've been stuck on those.
And they said, the good thing is you've got a description of, here's the description, here's what it's supposed to taste like. So as you go through the beer, like, okay, does this taste like, even though I don't like this style, does it taste like what it's described as? Am I getting those notes? Like, okay, that works. And they said also it was frustrating because it was like 9:00 in the morning and they're drinking malt liquor. Like, oh,
I was probably on that same table, because they tend to throw those at you the first thing in the morning for some reason. And the thing about stupid malt liquors is they're all perfect.
Oh,
They're all, you got like 9 of them in front of you, and you're like going through, you're sipping them all, and you're like, they're so well made, because they're all from like the big breweries.
all right.
And it's kind of funny. You're just like, every one of these is spot on. It's like, this is going to be tough.
Right.
And that's one of those things like, God, I really hate this beer, but they're really good examples of the style. What are you going to do? I mean,
yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, if it follows the description, I guess. Have you? I would imagine you've had, in doing judging, I would imagine there's been times where you're like, oh my God, this is disgusting. Like this is terrible. Have you had any of those situations where you like, taste beer, like, oh my, I want to just pour this out. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some that are, especially when you're doing like professional competitions with, you know, professional brewers. You're not really getting bad beer. And these are people that have been making beer for a long time. Every now and then you'll get like just like they somehow got an infected bottle or something, and something that's got, just some really bad off flavors. Stuff like that. But I've never really, I mean, I had a chili beer once, and knowing it was a chili beer category, you're drinking them all, and this one was just like pure ghost pepper or something, it's just like, and everybody's just like, oh God. It's like, my palate shot for the rest of the day. What am I going to do? What am I going to do now? Everybody's just like, all right, that one's, we can't drink this anymore, or else we won't be able to judge any other beers the rest of the day. It's that potent, and it was like, it was probably, a really good example of the style, but it was just a palate breaker. And that's one of those examples of, you just got to just dump it in the bucket and just move on.
I've learned the hard way a few times on the palate breakers, especially, when I was younger and didn't quite understand, like, there's certain beers that, it's going to change the flavor of everything afterwards. And I don't remember what it was that I drank. I remember the experience very well. I was at the Beer Hive when they very first opened, and it was Barry, bartender Barry. And I had something, and then I had something on tap, and I remember tasting it, and I called him over. I'm like, I think there's something wrong with this beer. He's like, really? I just said, it doesn't taste right. And it was a Wild from Uinta when they first came out, way back in the day.
Yeah.
And I think it was called Wildfire when they first came out. It was that original. I said, there's something wrong with this batch, I think. And so he went over and poured a little sample and tasted. He's like, nope, tastes great. I'm like, really? And he said, what did you have before? And I told him what he had. He's like, oh, you killed your palate, man. I'm like, oh, I did. He goes, yeah, you've totally killed your palate. Like, you should just have, a Pilsner at this point. Like, you've destroyed your palate. If you're going to drink any more beer, like, just, or maybe have something bigger, have a barley wine. He's like, yeah, you've wrecked it. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't realize I could do that. Good to know.
I have some that will actually help you in that regard, especially if you're drinking like IPAs and like really hoppy beers. You'd never drink 2 IPAs back to back, because the second one will always suffer from the first one. Like in your case, I found that if you can get like a sample pour of a Pilsner, the entire structure of those beers are like completely different on the palate. Whereas I find just a nice basic Pilsner in between, not a full glass, but just like a sample, just something to wash the palate, wash the tongue, makes that second IPA pop much more.
Oh, interesting.
And generally the way it's supposed to.
Cool.
And so I found that's really good. So little helpful tip of how I navigate through my multiple IPA sessions.
Nice.
It's just that little Pilsner in between.
Great
Lifesaver.
Nice. I will definitely take you out. That's really good advice. I like that. Yeah, because there's been a few times I'm sure I've just wasted IPAs where I've been drinking a bunch and and not the same one, a different beer, different IPA, and get to the last one and like, and then you have it again later. I'm like, oh, this is delicious.
Yeah, and that's too bad, because a lot of great IPAs out there that are really enjoyable.
Yeah. It is interesting. And that's something I think a lot of people don't sometimes consider, is what other beers are having, and also food and how that's affecting your palate. And it's interesting how, and also, I mean, one can from another can, they're usually going to be the same because of the batch, but sometimes they're not, which is interesting too. The same beer, I've had that where I've had back to back, and I'm like, whoa, this one tastes completely different than that last one. Where it's just
a lot of stupid stuff, like it's like brushing your teeth. It's like if I know I'm drinking beer and I'm going to have to just do some analysis on it, it's just hot water and no toothpaste.
Right.
Just, just go to town because you're going to screw up your palate. And if you have brushed your teeth and somebody offers you a beer and you're just like, it's like drinking orange juice right after brushing your teeth. It's just like, this tastes terrible.
Yeah. I've done that myself.
I don't even know what to do now.
Right.
Bloody Mary, please.
Do you have, you mentioned that you're off work right now. Do you have kind of a plan of breweries are going to hit this next week for anything new that's coming out that you're looking to, to hit up on, or that you've read about or know about at this point?
No plan yet. Hopefully start watching and, seeing the emails that come in and see what may be popping for the week, and make some trips to places that I have neglected. Try and get up to Park City, Utah County, get up to Ogden. I know Ogden River's got some new stuff. Everybody's got some new stuff. Matter of fact, I think Roosters has got a beer coming out on the Solstice, a barrel-aged beer. I'm really looking forward to trying.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, there's going to be a lot of stuff. And when you have all this extra time on your hands, you can hop on the train, go do some business, and take your time and, get those notes taken.
Yeah. Well, when you come up north, you'll have to hit me up. And,
oh yeah, hell yeah, I will.
I'll come have a beer with you.
I will totally ruin your day.
Awesome. Well, I have, I don't want to keep you all day, but I do have one last question for you. So as you know, my blog is Brews and Tunes. So I pair beer and music, mostly metal and hard rock, but, various other things as well. So, and not to put you on the spot, I know I didn't give you any time to think about this, but so, it's a Friday night, it's a Saturday night, Mikey's hanging out at home. What beer are you cracking open, and what album are you spinning?
Let's see, how about let's do, and it's nice that this just happened. So I already had this in the can, thank God. This is what I did. This is what I did Friday. Red Rocks Sakale. It's their Doppelbock made with rye, aged in rye barrels. And I took that and I paired that with Joe Bonamassa's live album, New Dawn Yesterday.
Cool.
Damn, that was a great pairing.
Excellent.
Those two are excellent. That's a great album, great beer. Made my going to bed much more pleasant, for sure.
I bet. Yeah, that's great stuff. Yeah, Joe Bonamassa, man, that man's tone melts you. Just
good.
Melts your face.
Such a guitar-driven live album too. It's just like, and it's one of his older live albums, which I really really hear the rock influences and how he just. I mean, I'm like, what do your fingers look like at the end of this? Yeah. At the end of this concert, because it's just got to be just like Purple and Bleeding.
Yeah,
the way he's going. So yeah, what a great pairing, and I do that more often thanks to you, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to admit it's a bit ridiculous, and I think some of the local breweries think it's a bit ridiculous or horrifying. I've learned that, I think I freak some of them out, because I'll do a beer pairing, and pair it with, a death metal album or a black metal album. And then I'll get no response from the brewery. Like, I scared the hell out of them. They did not like that. They were not cool with that pairing.
Yeah. Sometimes it exposes you to new music. And sometimes if you're into the music, it might expose you to a new beer.
Yeah. And that was always kind of the plan. That was always the idea behind it. And I've had some good, there's a few breweries that are like, oh, this is a really cool idea. And even some of them said like, I'm not really into this music, but I like that you did that. And thanks for highlighting our beer, and they'll share it on their page or whatever, which is cool too. So, which is nice. So, well, Mikey, this has been great. Thank you so much for meeting with me. It's a pleasure as always chatting with you, and best of luck to you with your page. It's wonderful. Like I said, it's highly influential for my page. I read it all the time, every week. I love it. It's where I learn about beer still to this day. So as I said, most of the breweries I think are scared of me, so they do not tell me when they're releasing new beers. Every once in a while.
No, and I appreciate you. I mean, I'm honored on your 10th anniversary. You asked me to play in your sandbox, and I'm so honored to have you as a friend, because you're part of when I was talking about how many nice people you meet through craft beer. I mean, you were part of that, and I think we've become really good friends. And
Yeah.
I wish you another 10 years, please.
Yeah, thank you. You as well. More, well, 15 at least, if not more. So thanks. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, man. Good seeing you.
Yeah, good to see you.